Hey all, this program is rated M for Mature, presenting Master and Apprentice Photography.
We've been recording this whole time.
Well, yeah, we have, but we didn't start with
Cold open.
I mean,
that was the cold open. No, that's the cold open. You don't have to say cold open all the time. We just
wait. You don't? I thought you had to say cold open to
I mean, I will.
Okay.
I just said it.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm new to this too. I'm new to this too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll just wing it. Okay. I guess we've started then. Cool. So you said cold open. It's official. So how's it going, Marlon?
I'm doing great. Week 9 of quarantine.
Week 9 already? Wow.
Yeah. My hair is like wacky scientist because it's all gray and sticking out.
Nice. I'm sure that's going to go over well for next time you need to take pictures or something.
Yeah, I got the Albert Einstein going on.
Very cool. I'm sure your wife adores it. Yeah.
Yeah, she hates everything else, but she likes my hair.
That's good.
Yeah.
The one thing that you can change. That's what she likes. Nice.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about this last weekend, but we kind of got, I guess last week we kind of got cut short, so. Working with assistants. You've talked about in the past that you've worked with assistants on photo shoots and whatnot. Do you normally coordinate with them, or do you just let them do their own thing and then you take what they give you?
I mean, obviously, if I'm working on a set, I need to coordinate and be a bit more hands-on and delegate and let everyone know what their responsibilities are. At a wedding, it's different. You know, I'll say like, oh, you know what? I'm going to go photograph the bridesmaids while I'm doing that. Why don't you go do the groomsmen? You know, to keep things on track. Mm-hmm. But I obviously want them to, you know, they're their own artists, and I want them to, you know, feel free to capture what they think is important and what they see. But yeah, there's times when, I'm going to do the family photographs right now. Can you please go photograph like some of the details inside the room? You know, just to keep things like on track, like keep things efficient.
Okay. Have you ever been an assistant on a photo shoot?
Yeah, of course. I mean, when I started, I was an assistant. In weddings, I was a second shooter, as they're usually called. An assistant might be someone who brings you equipment or sets up stuff for you. A second photographer is, you know, at a wedding or an event, another photographer doing their own thing, you know, to maximize coverage.
Okay.
I've assisted a few big name fashion photographers here in Montreal.
Ooh.
Yeah, which was
care to name drop?
Well, I mean, one of my favorites that I worked with, and he's a great guy. His name is Brian Ippersil. It starts with a Y. It's a French name, French thing.
Ooh, sounds important.
Yeah, you know, he's an amazing photographer, and it was so cool to be on sets with someone especially when I was first starting out, someone whose work I admired so much, and also to just see how he a lot of the in between details, like how he managed his team, how he worked with the models, how he interacted with the stylist, how he brought his vision to life, and it wasn't just I want to learn lighting tips from him. I already knew how to light things, and most of the time he'd be like, yeah, set up the lights, you know what to do, and he wouldn't even be hands on, but just so you know, and how he managed the models was very interesting, and it was nice to see that, you know, sometimes when you think about photography on set, we all have that, you know, that vision of the stereotypical, okay, now you're a tiger, now you're doing this, okay, all right, you're a mysterious woman in the back of a, you know, and that very animated type of cheesy photographer, and I've never really been like that. I'll obviously tell someone oh, just stand up a bit straighter, I want that, but he'd also be very kind of quiet, he'd make jokes and talk with the model, but he wasn't so much, okay, I want you to turn your hand 45 degrees counterclockwise, and, you know, it was more a fleeting, really trying to capture those moments. So it was kind of cool to see, I really liked how he manages his photo shoots, and that's also how I was doing it. So it kind of gave me that confidence that, okay, I am doing the right thing. The interesting thing about photography is we only see everyone's end work. We don't see how they did it.
Yes.
When you look at a sculpture or a painter, you know what they did. They went to their studio, they painted it, they sculpted it. It's not so much the process. Obviously, there's, you know, certain techniques, but with a photographer, you just see the end image and you don't know anything else. So it's kind of cool to see that behind the curtain look.
And working as a second shooter or assistant gives you more exposure to the process and how you can better perform your job when you decide to go out on your own type thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the best learning tools for someone is to be an assistant. See how someone else works. Go with them on shoots. Like, they'll let you use the camera for a few clicks. Also, you're also free to mess up, because it's their responsibility to get the shot, not yours. So you have more you have more freedom to really create, and and like, failing is also an important tool in photography and anything else.
So all the reward with none of the risk.
Exactly.
And anything that you do wrong, they could fix in post.
Yeah, exactly. Fix in post and considerably less money. But I often get people who email me asking me to be assistant. They're and they'll say, "I've never worked at a wedding before, but I'm really eager to try." And it's funny, I can't hire those people just because, as I said, like, my job is to deliver consistent work, and I can't do that if this person's never done the job before. So I tend to hire people that already have their own portfolios. Who I always joke around. I say, yeah, they're all great photographers that work with me. They're just not good business people. So.
Yeah, because if they were good business people, they would just be out there shooting weddings by themselves, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Instead, they rely on you to get them business, which seems a little backwards, but...
Yeah. Or listen, some people just don't want the pressure either of when especially, like, being a wedding photographer, like, there is a massive amount of pressure on you,
Oh, yeah.
It's, like, for some people, just, like, knowing you have to be there on a certain date is too much for them.
Yeah, they just want to wing it.
Yeah, some people are, not chronically sick, but, like, there are some people that, they tend to have bad days more often than good days. And for them, like, just, I have to be at this place and, like, be on my game and be ready to do this. Like, it's too much. And then, if I miss this shot, like, I've just totally failed these people. It's a lot to think about, and it's a lot to have on your shoulders. For me, that kind of pressure makes me perform better. So for a lot of second photographers, they're excellent photographers. But they just don't want that pressure. And also, they don't have to do the homework. They don't have to meet the couples, do the advertising, sell themselves, do the retouching afterwards. They just come for the day, do their photos, get a good meal out of it, have some drinks, do some, dance a little, and then go home.
So I guess this rolls into my next question about, assistants or second shooters. Do they stick around the whole duration of the wedding, or do they usually leave before you do, or...
Every wedding obviously has its own variables. Sometimes I'm hired, for the whole day. Sometimes only half a day.
Well, I mean, when they're working with you directly, like, do you send them home when, like, certain situations are done, or?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what, like for instance, like, a Hindu wedding ceremony can typically have 800 guests and last 4 days.
Wow.
Exactly. And it's like, they're amazing. They're actually my favorite ceremonies, like, out of all the cultures that I get to work with, who all have amazing customs and things like that. But just, like, the Hindu ceremonies are just, especially as a photographer, they're eye candy, but they're also very, very beautiful ceremonies. Like, I need assistance to to make sure everything is covered. Jewish weddings are also very long. There's lots of parts to it. Some cultures, like, split up the ceremony and reception, so it's totally different depending on what I need. But typically, and I mostly do Jewish weddings here. It's just my niche, the community that hires me the most. I tend to like, I might be there for 15 hours, like, way late to the party, whereas my assistants will usually be with us for like 10 hours.
Okay, so if you decide to be an assistant or second shooter, it's basically a part-time wedding photographer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So no risk, shorter hours, or less stress, I should say. Probably no stress. And you get a free meal out of it?
Yeah.
Sounded kind of appealing right now.
Except eating at a wedding when you're a photographer, it's kind of like eating in prison, because they serve you last because you don't mean anything to the to the staff. And you try to explain to them, like, logically, you're like, oh, well, like, I should be served first, right? Because no one's going to complain if you serve me first. Like, I'm working. And it's also because then, like, I get to eat, and then when I'm finished, everyone's still eating, so I'm ready to go. like when you serve me last, everyone else has already finished eating like half an hour ago. They're ready to continue partying, and then like
You're missing out on
you
photography
put this
time.
piece of chicken on my plate, and then everyone's like gets up to go dance. So I'm like, like scarfing down food, like with my hand over the plate, like shoveling food into my mouth. Maybe I haven't even eaten like lunch. So I haven't eaten, in 12 hours, and I'm just
Yeah, because you don't get a lunch break. You're working straight through.
Yeah. Well, you know what? When part of planning is, I have lots of like things in my bag, like almond, cheese strings, energy bars, and you just kind of go slowly throughout the day.
Wow, I never even thought of that. I figured you're like, okay, gonna go run and get some food now. No, you can't do that at a wedding.
Yeah.
Can't miss anything.
Or you know what? Cocaine, and you kind of like lose your appetite.
After the wedding ceremony itself, though, right? Wait, so no drinks, and you don't take your first drink until 10 o'clock.
Yeah, 10, exactly, yeah.
But cocaine is just...
Yeah, cocaine is just no all day. Yeah, just no all day.
During a Hindu wedding ceremony, just 4-day bender all the way through.
Yeah, just yelling at everyone.
Okay.
Going like, bro, okay? I know I'm here to take pictures, but listen to this business idea, okay?
Why is he hanging from the ceiling? I need the shots. So,
I've never actually tried it, but I imagine how I am normally that it just wouldn't be good for anyone.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna go there. You're right.
It's for another podcast.
So, along the lines of having the assistant/second shooter, do you prefer to have one who has a similar style as you, or do you like to mix it up and have somebody that does their own thing?
That's such an interesting question, and I'm really glad you thought of it. Because there's pros and cons to both. And
now, I brought this up because I remember you said that, like, if somebody shoots with a different camera, you can fix that in post to make it look similar to yours.
Right.
But, like, it doesn't matter what kind of camera they have if they take it, if they have a different kind of vision or a different kind of perception of things. So that's why I was curious about this one.
Exactly. So when I'm hiring someone who's going to work with me, if I do 30 weddings a year, and usually I have a second who might do, sometimes maybe 5 or 6 of them for the year will only hire me as one photographer with a smaller package, and the rest will want 2. And so maybe I'll have like my main second photographer working for me for maybe 15 of them, and sometimes, she has her own life and she can't make the others, so I'll have to find, another one. And I have a few that I, people that I trust and can work with, but availabilities is the main factor. So I prefer, obviously, someone with my own style to keep everything meshing. But I have had to work with people whose styles were completely different. They were professionals, and I didn't have to look over their shoulders. They knew what to do, but they would capture things, in their own style. And usually, they might be a bit more traditional. But the pro to working with someone who's your own style is that it's very seamless. Everything matches well. You can't really tell, there's no glaring difference when you're going through a photo stream and it switches to the other photographer's photos. Whereas if I'm working with someone completely different, you can obviously tell that it's them taking the photo, except for the client, well, you're getting 2 styles, so why not? You might get a photo that's a bit more artsy, and then you might get the other photographer taking the exact same scene, except it's a bit more traditional. And for them, why would they complain for just, getting both?
Yeah.
Both sides. Obviously, there's sometimes these moments where oh, I would have done this. That's what all photographers do. I would have done it this way, of course. But
I would have done it better.
Yeah, but it's not when it does happen, I'm just thankful that, at the end of the day, the client's just happy that the moment was captured.
Okay. So you as an artist don't it doesn't bother you when you deliver something that's a mix of 2 styles or 2
no,
perspectives?
I think because as much even the photographers whom I admire who are 100% on the more artistic photo documentary side, their family photos don't look any different than mine. It's still people just in a line looking. Mm-hmm. There are creative elements, and things you can do, to shake things up. But in the end of the day, it's someone walking down the aisle towards you is always going to look the same. How you compose it or use the space or, maximize the lighting in the room, that's up for the photographer. to do, but
Okay.
you know, like I'm always trying to, you know, create something or find like an interesting way to tell that story. But like no one's gonna get mad, like, oh, I stepped on this glass and you know it just looks so typical.
Interesting. Okay. So a follow-up question that I just thought of for you, because I remember in a previous episode you said you're very protective of your photography or whatever, where you get very
Oh yeah,
defensive. You get very defensive of your photography.
Yeah. I'm not an abusive person in a relationship, but as a photographer, yes, I'm toxic.
So what happens when you're like showing or you're delivering the photos to the couple, and they go, "Oh, I really love this photo, but it wasn't one you took; it's one that your second shooter took." How do you react?
I go, yeah, I taught them everything they know.
Okay.
No.
Very professional.
Yeah, no, it's because I've been the second photographer where like the photographer I work with who like is much healthier mentally goes like, oh wow, I love this shot. I'm so glad you were there. Like I'm so glad like we as a team are like delivering these images. Like good job, good team, you know? And you're like, oh well, that's a healthy way to look at things. Like you're a great guy. Like you're so friendly. I'm like, why would anyone like not want to be around you? That's great. And then I'm like, you know, like I'm going through the images and maybe we each get like the image at like the same time and like I just happen to like the assistants more. It like burns me inside to like begrudgingly accept it, you know? I'm like banging the table like fuck, you know?
Never hiring this person again.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna blackball them in the industry. This is ridiculous. I am the master.
You know? But that's also why you have a second photographer. There's things you can't like in Jewish weddings. There's the hora where they lift people in the chairs, right, in the circle.
Okay.
And so you're covering a circle, and they put someone up in a chair, and maybe you have to run around the whole room just to to face them. I'm pretty good at predicting them, but there's some times when like I run over, I click, and like I get a photo, and it's like, I get the shot. And but it maybe not just be like the best moment. I'm not 100% happy with it, but if for instance Kate is there and she gets like the shot, it's perfectly composed, like great expression, no focus issues, great lighting, like I'm not, still have to do my job. I still have to I still have to deliver them the better image, like and deal with the personal shit on my own. Like the fact that I get beat up about it is also like something, like that's something wrong with me. That's not how you should be. Like, I joke around a lot, but it's the same thing, like, I know we're going to talk about social media, but, when you see someone else's work and you go, like, oh, I really like that, or, like, sometimes I'm going through the photos and it could be, like, a mix, mine and the assistants in the same stream, just as I'm, like, arranging everything to be, so it doesn't just go, like, my photo, their photo, my photo, their photo,
mm-hmm.
From, like, angle, and I go, oh wow, I really like how they did this. Like that's cool. And then I switch to mine, and I'm like, oh right, this is mine. Yeah, no, that's good too. And it's it's kind of when you're shooting wide, you're gonna be like, oh, what would it have looked like if I went in close? Because like she'll be shooting if I'm shooting 35, like she might be shooting 85, and I'm like, oh, I really like that 85, And then when I'm shooting 85 and she's shooting 35, and I go, oh wow, so it's one of those, like it's like a grass is greener sort of thing.
Do you coordinate when you do stuff like that, or is it just that's usually how it goes? Like if you're shooting wide, she'll
I'll tend to coordinate. But like let's say for the wedding ceremony, if I know I'm going to be the one up close, like kind of standing up there next to the couple, like you don't want too many people crowding the main event. So
mm-hmm.
So you shoot with a longer lens, and stay more on the sides and down the aisle.
Okay. So yeah, that's what I was trying to get at before when I was talking about the coordinating. Okay, that is definitely interesting.
Yeah, I mean I'm not, but like that's really the extent of coordinating. But like I said, I tend to hire people whom I already trust, who are already good at their job.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. Like I tell people like it's great to be a second photographer, but start out maybe with someone who's starting out as a wedding photographer. It's like if you want to start a new act, like. If I want to start a new activity, or for instance, I like martial arts. When I started boxing, like I went to a boxing coach. I didn't email like a professional boxer going like, I'd like to study under you. And they're like, well, like no.
Get the basics down first, then we'll talk.
Right, exactly. But there are amateur boxers that go into a professional training camp, to help
mm-hmm.
them train and spar and everything. But like they've already made it on their own.
Okay. that's what I was trying to figure out, was whether the assistant / second shooter, you give them direction, but they still have the freedom to make their own decisions while they're on the fly. They don't like have to come to you and be like, hey, can I switch to this lens, or hey, can I go do this?
No. I don't have the energy for that. Like, I'm like like you always, you know, like you have to trust your instincts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm never gonna get mad at someone for, like, you know, I get upset. Not that I get upset. Like, I'm not like raging, but, you know, things that, you know, just make sure the photo's in focus. Don't, you know, don't like leave your shutter speed too slow that like things are blurry. You know, like, don't take 20 photos in a row where like the settings are so messed up that you didn't, you know, even realize it.
And don't upstage Marlon.
Well, no. I mean, everyone should always be trying to upstage. When someone upstages me, I'm not mad at them. I'm mad at myself.
Okay.
It's important. It's an important distinction.
That is true, yes. The more we talk about this, the second shooter / assistant thing, that's sounding really good right now.
Yeah.
I don't think I want to do the wedding photography, but I'll be an assistant. That sounds fun.
Yeah, exactly. It's there's tons of stuff. But like, even being an assistant at a wedding, sometimes, you know, someone starting out, or like there's sometimes when someone might hire me for like only a one photographer package, but I want to try out like an assistant who you know, I've seen their work. I want to see what they can do, and like I'll pay them out of my pocket to just come with me, and, you know, and just have fun. Like, you know, just go take whatever you want. Anything that you see that's interesting that you want to make, just go ahead, do it, and let's see what happens.
And if you don't use any of the pictures, you're fine still.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. Well, since you brought up social media, like, how important is that as a photographer for you?
Yeah, that's really interesting, and that's an answer that has evolved just as social media evolved.
Mm-hmm.
When I was first starting out, like playing around with photography, I still had a MySpace account.
Nice.
And yeah, that's where I used to put my photos and get, you know, fish for comments, because that's how I evaluated myself.
Ooh.
Like,
so you use social media for feedback?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, the internet's so important for feedback. We can talk about that after. So yeah, I started with MySpace, and then, you know, Facebook became big, and then you know, my Facebook business page is important. A lot of people message me through there, but now Facebook in general, the numbers have gone down. Like, business pages, you can see all those analytics where I used to get thousands of views when I posted something. Now it's only a few hundred. Mm-hmm. Whereas like my Instagram only used to get maybe like 100 views, but now the photo shoot I did with Madison from The Bachelor had like 30,000 to 50,000 impressions on some of the photos.
Wow.
So yeah, so right now Instagram is the big one, and it is more visual. Photography, there's a lot of popular photography Twitter accounts, but it's usually they're already famous photographers. They didn't become famous on Twitter for photography. Twitter I usually use for photography news. I follow a bunch of accounts, but I don't, you know, I'll post the odd picture of myself every once in a while, but like, people aren't going onto Twitter to seek out photos. Whereas like on Instagram, that's a lot more common. Like, a lot of the photography communities or photography accounts, like or hashtags, are a lot more sought after. So, okay. And I also use Instagram to find other photographers. In terms of like Snapchat, I use Snapchat a lot for pictures, but not safe for work, you know.
Okay, so as a photographer, you have to chase the trends with social media. You started with MySpace, then Facebook. Yeah,
exactly.
Then now you're at Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
So you basically have to keep an eye out for what the next Instagram is and jump to that one whenever that happens.
And that's just being, a smart business person. When you're a professional photographer, it's not just taking pictures. That's important. Mm-hmm. It's the most important. But then there's, everything else, the whole business side, the organizational skills, the marketing skills, the interpersonal skills. Sometimes I have to be a psychologist. There's a lot of other things that go in. I have to be a social media community manager for myself.
Mm-hmm.
There's also lots of online communities and forums and things like that. Not social media, but are excellent tools for photographers. Not always to maybe broadcast your work, but also to get feedback and learn from. Like, it's really cool that, just at your fingertips, just put up a photo and be able to get instant feedback.
Okay. And it's interesting that you mentioned marketing, because now that I think about it, like, your Instagram is basically a marketing tool for you. It is your portfolio, essentially, right?
Absolutely, 100%.
Wow. Okay.
I get people that contact me and they message me like, I love your work, like, oh, like how can we sign to work with you? And I go, oh, you can go on my website, just go form there and everything. There's a whole.
Wow, they find you through social media?
Yeah, and they go, oh, we didn't look at your website, you know. And I'm just like, oh, you're just like, it's on my Instagram. You're just ready to hand me money. I'll take it. Don't
Wow.
get me wrong.
That's pretty powerful. Like,
Yeah.
when I think social media, I think of like, well, we talked about it before. Like Twitter is just yelling at people, basically.
Yeah.
Like I never thought of it as a business like marketing tool.
Well, I mean, Twitter, I'm still yelling at people.
Yeah.
On Instagram, I'm not yelling at people. But
Well,
yeah,
not yet, at least.
exactly.
After a few more years, you're gonna get tired of it and just be like, hashtag quit your bullshit.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Well, that's my other Instagram account, Princess Buttercup 69.
Where you just badmouth other photographers
Yeah,
anonymously.
Just yell at everyone. But also, like, they might message me through Instagram, but they'll let me know that maybe they've been to 3 other weddings where I was the photographer, and they saw those photos. They loved the photos. You know, they saw that, you know, I showed up. I was normal for the most part at, at 3 weddings. Like, maybe I said something, they laughed. Like, I worked with a couple who like, I shot their wedding in Vermont. It was amazing. I had done a bunch of their friends' weddings, but I think we were both going. We were on the dance floor, and the bride, bumped into me. Well, she wasn't the bride yet, but the soon to be bride part of couple bumped into me, and I laughed. I said, look, it wasn't a busy time on the dance floor. I was like, all this space, and you keep bumping into me. And she did it again at night, and I was just like, you know what, you really have to, stay the F out of my way. Like, I'm really trying to do my job. And, we all laughed and had a drink and we talked. And then I think the next week I had seen them at another wedding, and I just laughed, and I was like, don't worry, I'm not going to tell anyone that I know you're wearing the same dress as last week, and she laughed, and it was great. And then, but then when they got engaged, I was the first call they made.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so if business was just that easy, I'd be ecstatic.
And that's in a different state, in a different country, and
yeah,
you're making connections there.
Exactly.
That's cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know how we got there from social media, but yes, that was actually a really cool story.
Social media marketing, how we find clients as photographers.
Yeah, I guess finding clients is
yeah.
They're technically finding you, right?
Yeah, no, exactly.
You can't just go out to somebody and be like, hey, here's my portfolio, I want to take pictures. They're like, we're not doing anything, I'm eating breakfast.
There's people that do cold calls, and I don't do that with businesses or anything. But sometimes, people in my gym, where I box, there's a lot of, we spoke about it. I won't say any names because they're not paying us, but there's a few professional UFC fighters, and that's my passion. I love doing that stuff and watching it. So I'm like, oh, can I take your picture? It would just be cool to do, yeah, of course,
Mm-hmm.
But that's something I'm passionate about, and make something cool, and so you can cold call in photography, or there are people that can call businesses and tell if you're here's my portfolio, I tend to specialize, let's say, in product photography. This is how I would photograph your products. Do you like it? If you're interested, please let me know. And I know someone, who has reached out to companies like that. They specialize in diamond photography, and they reach out to jewelry companies all the time. And they get work because they're really good at what they do. And, some people don't even realize that they can get better images until you show them.
Wow. Yeah. So that's,
yeah. I guess
I never thought of that.
I could hang outside jewelry stores, and as soon as someone walks out with an engagement ring, be like, "Hey, you're gonna need a wedding photographer. You want to see my stuff?" And I pull out,
It's the equivalent of an ambulance chaser in the photography world.
Yeah, exactly.
It's oh, you're gonna pop the question? You want somebody to take a picture of it?
Yeah, just hang out at romantic spots.
You got a trench coat on, and you open it up, and there's your portfolio underneath the trench coat. It's
hey,
exactly. Hey, I got some photos for you.
Yeah, exactly. You open the trench coat, and either side there's just Polaroids.
Hey, need a photographer? I got your photography right here.
You're waiting at Disney World, and as soon as you see someone go down on one knee, you just like toss like a bunch of business cards onto them like confetti.
It's like, call me for your wedding. Okay, so the last question I had for you today: how much time do you spend on post once your photo shoot is done, basically?
A very interesting question.
Because I remember last episode you go, "I'm never finished," when you talked about cleaning up and whatnot.
Yeah. So I would love to be a photographer that just like, yep, I have this this retouching kind of recipe that I always use. Like, oh yeah, I like to add, blacks and bump the highlights and like do this, my own little color mix, press a button and be like, yep, great, I'm happy. As you can tell from just listening to me, I guess these last 4 episodes, I have like a major complex with my own, with like perfecting my work. I've gotten much better at being a perfectionist, but
I mean,
yeah,
you're supposed to work on the other part, the whole, the complex thing, not feeding the ego.
Yeah, exactly. So I've gotten better, but definitely starting earlier on in my career, I used to sometimes just get fixated on the skin tone in this color in this photo just isn't right,
Mm-hmm.
Like the walls were red. Now like there's a red cast and everything. Well, now I have to add green. Oh, well, now everything looks green. I just want the skin to just be a bit more green. Okay, so I'm going to mask it and paint it, and like spend time and be like, oh, okay, well, this is how I do that. And that was good because it really built my eye for these sort of things and learning how to problem solve. But now I'm just like, yeah, listen, you got married in a red fucking room. It's not my problem. Like, you're red. Deal with it. But, or turn it black and white. But, it's things like that. Like, and then, what happened is I would just get overwhelmed with work. I want to deliver my things to my clients. So like you start cutting corners and you're like, oh no, they're going to notice. And you're like, what do you think of the photos? I'm like, yeah, we love the photos. They're great. I'm like, oh, okay. So it's just kind of like learning that. Also, like I said, I stay way too late at weddings, way later than I need to. It's just a lot of fun. Like my favorite photos are the ones at like 2 a.m. when like the bride just doesn't give a shit anymore. Her dress is like filthy from dancing. It's been rubbing on the ground. Like, the hair is undone. Everyone's sweaty. The mascara is running. Like, people are still drinking way too much. Like that's the vibe I go for, right? And I'm usually
these
most
are
of the
pictures
time,
no one's going to remember.
Yeah, like the contract's already done by then, but at that, like, it's just fun. Like at that point, I'm like, there's no obligations. I can just, like do whatever I want and, try some things. And like, it's really my favorite part. But when I come home from a wedding and I have 15,000 photos, it's not just the retouching, it's also sorting through these 15,000 photos. It's like,
wow.
It's like editing a movie. Like I would love to watch a 5-hour long Star Wars movie, but that's, pretty ridiculous once you think about it. And especially most of the photos are kind of like the same scene, just like over and over and over, like a different angle, making sure I get like the shot.
Mm-hmm. Like
you don't want to see like outtakes mixed into like the real thing. So it's like making sure, it's learning to really cut out what you don't need. But it's the balancing act of, like, do I need this as part of like, the photographic story I'm telling? Or like, or am I just like deleting this family's precious memory? So like that takes long. I'm very conscientious about the selection of photos. And then, but when it comes to actually like starting the retouching, it's not that it takes long. Sometimes like when you're like, I have 2 children, I have my own life. It's finding the time to actually sit down and take that time. It might take me about 40 hours after a wedding, 40 to 50 hours of actual retouching. But in between then, I also have other photography jobs.
Okay.
So, especially in the summers.
So you're still, you have weddings that you're editing right now, you were saying, right?
Right. Well, I mean, I had a few weddings in March before the lockdown.
What's still, out of all the ones you're still editing, what's the oldest one you think?
The oldest one is like end of February, but I'm actually on track to finish that tomorrow. Problem is, like, in the old days before COVID, I would, I could on a good day wake up, sit down on my computer, edit till way past midnight, and and get some work done. Whereas now I'm a homeschool teacher.
Yeah, so now you have to fit it in.
Exactly. So, and also, it's also stressful times for everyone. This has been a great outlet for me, but there's some times when having a hard time sitting at the computer just staring at photos. Sometimes it's a great distraction. Sometimes, I just can't do it. So like I'm happy if I get, 4 to 6 hours a day to edit. But I'm getting through it. I'm almost done.
Very cool. All right, well, we're cutting this week's a little short too.
Okay.
So, do you want to go ahead and provide your deliberate tip?
Yes. The tip for today, let's say, did I already say this? It's important to know, lighting is so key in photography. And obviously when you're starting out, you're going to be using natural light more than anything. It's also important to know when not to take a photo. For instance, let's say there's a beautiful pond by your house. And you like seeing all the, nature or things like that, or a nice view.
Okay.
Maybe you're out for a walk, you have your camera with you, it's 1 in the afternoon. The sun is right above you. The grass is kind of washed out. You're getting a terrible, bright reflection off the lake, and the sky is so bright that it just ends up being white in the photo. Let's say you come back to that park and it's sunset. The grass is like a golden color. The angle of the sun is now allowing you to actually see the lake and the sky and all the colors, and the sky is reflecting off the lake, and maybe there's a beautiful sunset, right? That would be the best time to take that photo. So it's also knowing when sometimes, you can't force a good photo to happen in bad conditions. And it's sometimes, it's just, it's not even worth going through the effort to not get the best results. Let's just not do it now.
Okay, so that's, the ability to recognize, basically timing is,
Yeah, exactly. Or, just being able to see the light. There's tons of photos to make in bad light, if you want. You find shade, for instance, or, or what's called hard light, when you have that harsh sun, can be interesting to use when you're, when you know how to maximize it properly. But usually, let's say you're doing travel photography, you're on a nice vacation, a nice romantic vacation in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
If it's in the afternoon, the lighting's not good, put down the camera, have a good meal, enjoy your company. Don't even think about photography. Don't worry about forcing yourself to make an image. And then, wait. And then when the lighting is great at that golden hour, okay, now take out the camera. Make 20 stunning images then forcing yourself in bad condition to make, maybe one.
Okay, so don't force the shot.
Exactly.
Very cool. I wasn't sure where you're going with that because you were painting a really good picture in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then you started talking about lighting, and I was like, oh, okay, now I get it.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, I want to take a picture of this lake now.
Yeah.
But no, I need to wait until later.
It's going to suck.
Okay.
But it's also taking portraits outside. So I have a beautiful pond that's near my house. I don't like doing nature photography, but there's sometimes I'm walking around that lake and or I'll, jogging and I see a guy walking around with these two huge Canon cameras with these $10,000 long 500mm lenses on them, serious bird photography lenses. He's wearing the vest. He's wearing the safari hat or whatever. This guy is there to take pictures of some serious ducks.
He's ready to go.
Yeah, and I'm like, how did you invest $20,000 into equipment and you don't know not to don't do it now? Don't do it. Come back in 5 hours. It'll be great. You'll get stunning photos of these mallard ducks. But
yeah,
no amount of now. The colors are going to be washed out. The lake is just going to be reflecting a big white, bright spot from the sun.
And no amount of equipment is going to make that better.
Yeah.
You'd be a lot better off with a cell phone camera at the right time than $10,000 worth of equipment at the wrong time.
Right.
Okay. I think that is a good way to end this episode 4. Thanks for listening. Got anything you'd like to add, Marlon?
See you next time.
Okay. Cold ending.
Bye.
Wait, we don't have to say cold ending.
No, we don't.
Okay. Thanks for listening to our podcast. I hope you learned something or got some good laughs out of it. Check us out at mandapod.com. MANDAPOD.com. Thanks again.